Okay, so this episode, so much happened. But first, so many people watched my review recap last week. I would thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now, this is Chucky Season 2, Episode 4, Death on Denial, or as it says at the beginning of the episode, Death on Denial, a Jennifer Tilly mystery. As you can probably guess, if you saw our trailer, it's a murder mystery. Only it's Chucky, so it's the actual murder. And so, right at the beginning, before that though, there's a segment hosted by Chucky. He's hosting this whole episode, kind of. And, it's him, he's talking to a earpiece, and he's cut somebody out. There's somebody's like, "You're live." He's like, "Oh shit," This is the second show that I've seen this week take a shot at Ellen or James Corden. It's crazy. So yeah, and then he proceeds to interview Belle, which is I guess the name of the Tiffany doll before she got transformed into Tiffany. Ask her role in the show, and she didn't answer. And Chucky looks great. I don't know what's the thing with his eyes early on. He looks fantastic. Too bad that this will be pretty much all I'll say about him until at the end of the review. Because when you see on the doll till the end. This is a human Chucky we're going to talk about. Nika. So, yeah. It's a murder mystery, and it picks up with a previous episode, or the one before that ended, where Glen and Glenda show up, and Tiffany, Jennifer, is scrubbing up the blood, and they're like, what are you doing? Why is there blood on the ground? And, she's like, oh, they want me to be scarier online or whatever. And because it's Jennifer Tilly, they buy that. And so, a lot explains the episode, a whole lot. If the first episode of the season was a continuation of prior Chucky, a reference to it, then this one is the same with Seed of Chucky, which I haven't seen in a while. So I'm sitting there trying to remember, oh yeah, and I start remembering stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, this really does take place after, okay. Because Glenda, is wearing the same outfit they wore, that Glenda wore in Seed of Chucky, the black sweater with the purple shirt over it, same outfit. Whereas Glenn is wearing something else entirely, more punk thing. There's a blade in their boot. Yeah. So the whole thing is they haven't seen each other in a while, which is a theme with Jennifer Tilly and each guest at this party as they show up. And the guest star, they got guest stars, y'all. We got Gina Gershon. That's Gina Gershon with an H. The Hollywood actress, not Gina Gershon without the H, the adult actress. Yeah. They got, we knew Meg Tilly was coming. Meg Tilly shows up. And I had a theory about her. That she showed up looking for her sister. She hadn't seen in a while. And she'd be the only one that can tell Jennifer Tilly from Tiffany. I was kind of right. Because they haven't talked to each other in years. She's been like, why are you ducking me? Like, for 24 years. And if you that's simple math, 1998, that's when Tiffany got involved with all this Chucky shit. And when Jennifer Tilly joined Chucky franchise. So. And it's also right around the time of a movie called Bound, which is also referenced a lot in this movie. Yeah. So, and all these guests are linked to Jennifer Tilly in that way. I'm unsure about her and Joe. I can never say his name right, so I got it right here. Joe Pantoliano. I know him as the angry chief from the Bad Boys movies, always pissed off and yelling. Or the fucking traitor from the Matrix, the first one, Cypher. And I was like, man, I'll get halfway through the episode, and I'm like, wow, this is the longest I've seen him not pissed off and yelling at somebody. And then murder victim number one, who's the dude Tiffany called to help dispose of the other dude she murdered. He shows up and he's fucking terrible. He's homophobic. He's maybe a bit racist. He's pissing off everybody, and Joe finally goes off, and I'm like, there it is. That's the Joe I remember. And he says something like, I'm not pissed off because of my heritage, because he is Italian. He says, I'm not pissed off because of my heritage. I'm pissed off at my rage at idiots like you. And he just goes off. I'm like, there we are. And then there's a girl named Sutton from The Real Housewives, season 11. I don't watch The Real Housewives, as I say, with Kyle Richards and Halloween. So I got no idea who the Sutton is. At least I'm familiar with Kyle Richards through her movies from the 70s and 80s. The Sutton girl, I had no idea who she is. But yeah. Also, as if Glen and Glenda's long-awaited return wasn't enough, we got confirmation on Kyle. Pending that, though. So, yeah. And this episode plays, like I said, a murder mystery. And that's by accident, because they discover the body of who she murdered before, Tiffany. And she's like, well, it's a murder mystery party for Glen and Glenda, because they're all there for Glen and Glenda's 18th birthday. So, yeah. Which is exactly how long it's been since we've seen them. So, yeah. And, so that's what it is. And they're all trying to work, figure this out. They get ready. And she's like, well, Tiffany's like, I'll ask the questions and everything. She's trying to take control of the whole thing. And not let them find Nika/Chucky. And protect what she's been doing. And try and keep it from Glen and Glenda and her long lost sister, Meg, But yeah, and throughout this, you see interactions with everybody. Jennifer Tilly, and are we surprised? Everybody wants to fuck Jennifer Tilly. First, it's Gina Gershon. Again, if you saw Bound, okay. And this is the last reference, I swear, to the adult industry. Like that whole what they did in Bound. They had Nina Hartley come in and work on that with them, helping with that. So apparently that's authentic. Because Nina Hartley, he's often thought of as the very best and like the real deal. And you saw it get kind of edited that way from what they did in Bound when Gina Gershon's talking to Jennifer alone. And she slips her hand, you can guess. And the camera's changed to how it was when they did it in that movie and everything. It was a good nod. Yeah, but then she tells her to stop and everything. Then Joe shows up with his pants up. I didn't even see that happen. He's all over. She's like, what? No. And then pinning that, because that was some pinning that. But yeah. And then Glen and Glenda are right around because they know something's up. Yeah, but they don't know who their dad is, which is interesting. Like, a whole lot interesting. Because they knew Chucky, right? And when they come across Nika, finally, then we get our first flashback or jump back, whatever. It's not linear. I'm not a fan of that. Of non-linear storytelling. For the most part, I'm not into it. And, it did that. It flashed back to months ago when Glen and Glenda were first there, apparently. And so I guess this isn't the first time in years, but it seemed like it is. I don't know. And that's when they came across Nika for the first time. And, excuse me. And and Glenda wants to help her get her out of there. And Glenda's like, what, you believe this? It's like, what? What, she cut her own limbs off? She put the wall gag on herself? Come on now. But yeah. And so like, yeah, we gotta get her out of here. And then Glenda leaves the room. And Glen's there. And remember that knife I talked about? She takes it out for whatever reason. And then she accidentally cuts herself, which causes the transformation from Nika to Chucky. And again, if you're on the door, it's fantastic. Fans, myself included, but like, how are they going to she's still fantastic as Chucky and Nika. Wow. And she's like, shit face? Well, you got so beautiful. And she's like, what did you call me? Because they were talking to Tiffany about somebody from when they were younger who used to call him shit face. That was here's your sign, Billing. you know. And she starts putting two and two together. And Chucky's like, I'm your dad. And he starts answering questions like he didn't want to leave. And Tiffany drove him away, which is true. I mean, but also not true. If you saw us at Chucky was like, I'm fucking done. This is ridiculous even for me. I'm out. You remember that? And then Tiffany was like, okay, fuck you. I'm taking the kids, whatever. And Chucky's like, the fuck? So it's kind of right and kind of wrong. But yeah. And so they had a whole other idea. They were going to do with Glen and Glenda because they want to murder Tiffany. So, yeah. And this all comes to a head when Glen gets Chucky still inside Nika downstairs, and they got her wearing like prosthetics, like not prosthetics, not like hook hands and everything. So that's how they're gonna do it. And he had a gun on it. She's laughing and shooting, but there's no bullets in it. She's like, "What the fuck?" You know. I got the same question. Like, pretty sure Glen is fine with this. In fact, I'm gonna know Glen is fine with this. I'm familiar with them. They're like, and then I really just watched it. And then there's a struggle between Chucky and Tiffany. And in the struggle, Chucky bolts. No, Chucky's transformed back into Nika, who then bolts into a truck driven by Kyle, wearing a wig for some reason, a dark-haired wig. And finally, Kyle and Nika meet. So yeah, and they get the fuck out with Glen. Glenda stays behind with Tiffany / Jennifer, who's just lost all of her shit at this point. Everybody's applauding. I think it's part of the show. It's like, no. Also, another body showed up. It was Joe. So how the fuck, you know? Like, apparently somebody shot him. And the way that's explained. Okay. So, then Chucky, the doll, comes back on and it's like, alright, so that wraps up this very special episode. But he's like, we know you have questions. It's like, what the fuck happened to Joe? Who did it? Who murdered this other dude? And obviously, obvious, it was Glen. Yeah, Glen. Glenda? It was Glen, I believe, yeah. Who did it? Glenda? Yeah, Glen. Glenda. They're fucking twins, like, played by the same actor. Glen. Glenda. The one with the short hair. Pretty sure it's Glen. But it feels like that's Glenda. Either way, that was my first guess. Yeah, I was right. She poisoned him. Apparently she always carrying that with her. Along with that knife and the punk. They're always carrying that with them. With their knife to get that punk, yeah. Sorry. Oh, which reminds me, there's a whole scene about pronouns that I feel like a lot of fans are going to be so happy about. Like I said, this dude that Glen murdered, fucking terrible. And so they all, like, because he's like, what the fuck? What is they, them? Like, isn't that plural? Which immediately was my first question when this whole they, them thing became mainstream. And I was like, that's always plural. So how does that describe a single person? And to the best of my knowledge, I'm going to try to explain. So a person who identifies as they, them doesn't necessarily identify as a man or a woman, a boy or a girl, or somewhere in between most of the time. But there are times where a person who identifies as they, them will also use both pronouns. So there's both coming together as one. The best I can explain it. As, you know, but they didn't do that here. They just starts to shit out this dude. It's like, Gina Gershon is like, coming to the 21st century. They're all calling them names and everything. So I'm anxious to see, very interested to see how the fans react to that scene. And the scene I'm about to talk about here in a second. So yeah, The other murder was one that's been building up for a year. 1 year in the making. If you're a wrestling fan, you know what I'm talking about. It's been highly anticipated. And this person's acting debut has been highly anticipated. And then this wrestler did an interview and was like, because they love Chucky, and they're like, they want to be Chucky. They don't want to do anything crazy. They don't want a big role. They just want to be murdered by Chucky. So we knew. And it was this episode that was going to happen. My idea was I'd have a cameo and Chucky would just do that, but no. We cut back to Chucky's talk show, and he brings him out, and we know who it is. Everybody loves her. It's Liv Morgan. And they have a conversation, and then Chucky, he's like, well, he read my mind. He's like, well, the fans are probably going to be pissed if we don't do something with the doll, and I don't get to say fuck a whole lot, because you only get 10 of them. Apparently you only get $10, which is, that's a lot for a 1 hour show. You get to say it 10 times, oh yeah. And so Chucky's like, play the footage. And the footage is Liv Morgan talking about she wants to be on Chucky. If wrestling fans, you know, there was a video. Chucky responded. He said, you know what? Come to my show, but be careful what you ask for. It was very exciting. And of course, Chucky invaded NXT Halloween Havoc last weekend for the second year in a row. His third appearance overall over 2 decades. And it's all been consistent, which is good on WWE's part. And so now this. So he plays the video and Liv's like, what the? Oh, I was joking. And then he stabs the fuck out of her by literally going fuck. He's like, fuck. While he's laughing to end the show. And I laughed. Because a world without Liv Morgan, that would be terrible. That'd be terrible. And if you were tasked to do it, that'd be awful. Like fuck, yeah. But at the same time, they had a year. This is built up for a year. And she shows up as herself in her wrestling gear, but the Chucky version, which she looked good. She always looks good. But the Chucky version, but I thought we're going to really see her do something with her few minutes, you know. We knew it'd be short. I mean, so I'm mixed on it. Like this whole episode, I'm mixed on it. A lot happened. We learned a lot. See, Chucky's very much canon, like very much. We learned that. At the same time, this isn't my style of anything. The whole non-linear storytelling. I'm not, like I said, I don't like that. I'm already confused enough as it is. I don't need it when I'm watching something. Pulp Fiction did it right. The movie Go did it right so far. Oh, and Run Lola Run. And then the Simpsons parody of Run Lola Run did it right. But that don't mean everybody can do it or should do it. I was just, you know. I said we come back to Joe. Who shot Joe? Chucky asked that question himself. He asked Liv, who shot Joe? And she's like, Sutton? And Chucky's like, well, you're not good at this, huh? Play that clip. And so it's a conversation between Gina Gershon and Joe. And Gina Gershon reveals she's in love with Jennifer Tilly, like the rest of us. And she's like, Joe, why you passed out? What the fuck? What were you doing here? And Joe's like, I'm in love with her too. And Gina's like bullshit and pulls a gun on him. And he's like, I'm playing. She's like, well, tell me the truth. He's like, no, I am in love with her. And then she shoots Joe. I'm like, what? And she empties her gun at this party. And nobody heard the gunshots. And when Joe falls, you see the feathers and some glass fall from above, like Briar Chucky. Remember that kill? When Tiffany killed that couple at the hotel? I feel like it was a reference to that, as well as a reference to George Reeve. That's what happened to him. Unfortunately, there was a party going on at his house. A gunshot was heard. He was found in his room. No longer with us. We still don't know what happened. And this is interesting because while it's a reference to that, it's a reference to that murder I just talked about from Briar Chucky. And And the woman in the couple was Janet Kidder. Now, if that last name sounds familiar, that's because her aunt was the legendary late great Margot Kidder, Lois Lane from the Christopher Reeve movies, right? The Christopher Reeve Superman movies. And 20 years before that, who played Superman? George Reeve. Yeah. So interesting to reference that. Also, the opening was TVs. There's all kinds of TVs. The newer flat ones, the fat butt ones from back in the day. Some of them from way back in the day. Black and white ones, color ones. That's what it was. That was the whole thing. So yeah, I am mixed on this episode. Extremely. Yeah. But Glen and Glenda made a hell of a return this time around. It's more positive. Mostly. Again, I'm still waiting for people's response to that one scene. But yeah. Kyle survived, like we knew she did. And Gina Gershon, the actress, is now a fucking murderer in the Chucky franchise. Okay. And she murdered Joe. What the fuck's his name again? Joe Pantoliano. Okay. And this is just gonna... He's an Emmy Award-winning actor. He was on, yes, Sopranos. That's what they referenced. What that dude referenced to piss off Joe. He was like, that's a character, you know. And then he drops that word. They were always dropping those Sopranos, which I won't say. Goldo with an I. That's all I'm saying. And he's like, hey, that's a slur. You can't say that. Which sparks the whole thing. And then he calls Gina Gershon Gina instead of Gina because she played a lesbian. And she's like, please don't call me that. Because obviously. And yeah, so. Anyway. That was Chucky season 4. Season 2, episode 4, Death on Denial. And yes, this was a very special episode. I'm also not a fan of very special episodes. This is one of the better ones. I'm still mixed on it. Thank you for watching.